So what time of day is the best to text? Well, in order to answer that question, let's think about what response we want from our texts. The response we don't want is silence, right? And what the response we do want is for the girl to get the text, feel that emotion of, oh, this cute guy texted me, and think about it a little bit, and then have that like, oh, do I text back, whatever. We also don't want our text getting lost in the shuffle. So we don't want our text to be received at the same time as she receives 10 other texts. You'd like to have her receive it as a unique, distinct event. Okay, so given all that, when shouldn't you text? Middle of the night is a really bad time to text. And this is something I have to be careful of because oftentimes I'm up super, super late and I forget that people aren't on my schedule. Say a girl has a 9-to-5 job, I text her at 4 a.m. That's a really dumb time to text. It's like a wasted text, right? Especially maybe I'm in a different time zone. I forget. I'm not conscious of like what time is it in New York. I make that mistake sometimes by accident. You want to be careful about that, right? Because when you send it at some god-awful weird time and they don't receive it, they're not going to respond back. Okay. Next thing that helps is, do you know their schedule? If you know when they're working, when they're not working, if you know kind of whether they receive text at work, like if, for example, here's a good one. If whenever they respond to your text, they're texting at a certain time of the day, it's probably a good indicator that you should text them at about the same time of day they're texting you. So you can get a view into their schedule and their life and that kind of stuff. But typically, start of the workday when like people are in a bunch of meetings and rushing around and stuff like that isn't really the best. Later on when they're a little more relaxed is better. Also think about where are you at in the interaction, what are you trying to have happen? If you're trying to get the girl out on a date tonight, you probably don't want to start texting her at 6 p.m. because it's too late, right? In that case, you want to start texting her earlier in the day, so maybe you can set it up for sometime after work, right? So think about those kind of factors as well. The key thing though is when you're thinking when do you text a girl, think about what is her lifestyle, what is her schedule, and when is she actually going to receive the text as a unique event, right? Not she wakes up and she has 20 texts in her inbox, and not in a context where she's busy doing 6 other things, okay? When can you text her given her schedule where she's likely to respond as a specific event and she's likely to receive that little beep or text notification? That's your goal when thinking of when to send a text. One other aside I almost forgot, do not text at night on Friday and Saturday nights with cold numbers. Unless you specifically have already been texting her and you're trying to like meet up with her that day or whatever, do not start a new text thread. Do not start trying to initiate a text with a girl on Friday or Saturday night. It conveys that you don't have a life, you're not busy those nights, okay? You wanna convey a cool, good lifestyle. Also, most hot girls already have plans those nights, so trying to get them out on short notice those nights is really, really difficult. So in general, avoid that as well. And avoid the super late night texts as well, because again, oftentimes they'll be asleep, and also it implies a lot of agenda, like I just want you for like late night activities. So that's another aside, avoid those as well. So what's my stance on emoticons? My stance on emoticons is I hate them, but I use them liberally. I use them a lot. I personally hate them. I think they're the dumbest thing ever. But they're effective, and I do what works, right? I do what actually gets results, what gets girls on dates. So do emoticons help with that? Absolutely they do, and here's why. It's very difficult to convey the right emotion through text. And especially if you're gonna be flirty, which a lot of your texts should be flirty, you wanna convey that you're being flirtatious, not serious. You do something flirtatious and it's taken as serious, it can be taken as, oh, here are my balls on a platter. Or it can be taken as, I fucking hate you, right? But when you throw in the emoticon, it's very clear you're joking, it's very clear you're kidding around. So it's extremely, extremely valuable to throw them in. Now, as a man, I don't agree with like writing yay with 16 A's and a Y and 10 exclamation points. I also don't agree with putting like 3 different emoticons at various places in your message. I think that's pretty lame. I think it's very try hard, and like, I don't believe in the whole like masculine energy polarity thing, but I kind of do a little bit. And I feel like doing too many emoticons and too much of this, woo, expressive, exclamation mark, yay, OMG. That's like not very masculine. It's not very masculine, it's not very grounded. It's not very congruent with the type of persona you want to have as a man to be attractive to women. So I don't think you should overdo it. But if there's any doubt of your text being misread, by all means throw an emoticon on there, okay? So you don't want multiple emoticons per text. You don't want to be over the top with it, but emoticons are very, very valuable. Also, I would say don't try not to repeat the same emoticon on every single text. Like, it's very easy to fall into like winky face on every text. If you've done winky face on like 3 consecutive texts, maybe do one without it. Or maybe at the very least do like the little 2 dots and the P for this tongue out or something instead of it. Don't be like redundant and same message over and over again. But emoticons per se, very, very, very useful. They will save you so many egregious mistakes in text. Again, remember that like one great text probably won't get her on a date. one bad text may ruin it. And when you do something flirty that's perceived of as serious or perceived of as harsh or like balls on a platter, that's the bad text that ruins it. So emoticons are massively useful in saving you from those bad texts. What do you do when the girl says, yeah, sounds good, just call me to confirm, right? Or call me to confirm or text me to confirm, that kind of a thing. I hate that. I fucking hate that shit. Because I have so many negative experiences and negative associations with it. A, girls flake on that stuff all the time. But B, what ends up happening in my experience, because I usually have multiple girls on the go, is that there's this girl that's kind of flaking and there's this other girl that wants to see me and I don't know what I can tell them and I have to burn one lead or the other. And so for my own sanity and just general like living a good life, I don't deal with the call to confirm very much. Now, you can't be super anal retentive about it. If you're super anal retentive and butthurt about it, you're like, no, you cannot do that, that's not good, okay? You want to be fun, positive, good vibe when you're texting, otherwise you'll burn the lead for that reason. So I wouldn't say like absolutely no and that kind of stuff. There are also some context. Like if she's like, I have to check my work schedule, it's either this or this, let me confirm with you. That's a pretty legitimate call to confirm. That's based on something specific. But if it's like, let me call you to confirm because there's no specific plan, but you know, something interesting might come up, so I'm not so sure, that's a pretty shitty call to confirm, and that's very, very flaky. And what I found actually works pretty well in that context is that I will just actually pre-flake on them, okay? And what I mean by that is they're like, oh, call to confirm, etc. I might like qualify it a little bit, be like, oh, is there like, you know, is it particularly busy? Is there something that might come up that day? Especially over the phone, I'll do this, right? Because again, making plans over the phone is better than in text. So I'll try and qualify it maybe. But then if they really do seem like, you know, they're kind of flaky or whatever, I'll be like, hey, listen, it sounds like you're busy that day. Let's just schedule it for another day when you're actually free and have time, right? And where we can be free and like just relax and enjoy each other, right? And I'll say that. And the funny thing is, I do it for my own sanity, or at least I started doing it for my own sanity, which is so I would have that time free to see another girl. I wouldn't be dealing with this, is she flaking, is she on, whatever thing. But what I found actually happened was a lot of times the girls immediately would become way more free. She'd be like, no, it's okay, I can do it. And they'd be like affirmative and sure on it. Or they'd be like, well, I can't necessarily, but let's do this other day. And they'd be firm on it. And I was like, what happened there? And what happened is you just conveyed the value, you just conveyed that you're a high value guy. You acted the way a high value guy should act, right? As a guy who values his time, is busy himself, and also is patient, non-needy, and believes the girl will see him eventually. And just through that, like, hey, you know what? Just hit me up when you're actually free and we can like have an enjoyable time where we can relax and, you know, not be stressed. Conveying that message, massively, massively, massively valuable. And again, the girls will turn around so fast and actually start chasing you and start making solid plans with you. That's what I found. Even if it doesn't work that way though, it's good for your personal sanity, and it's a good way to live your life in general, okay? But never butthurt. Again, never, this is for all texting, never, ever butthurt. It's always in good fun, it's always fun, and there's always that assurance that you like her, she likes you, and you're gonna hang out no matter what. That's the implied assumption in everything you do. But that said, you also value your time, so if she's truly busy, why wouldn't you just say, hey, you know what, let's just do it another day, right? In a very positive way. So guys constantly ask me about sexting. How do you get the girl to send you naked pictures? How do you get the girl like saying like sexy shit to you, talking about what you want to do to her, what she wants to do to you, that kind of stuff. I am such a non-fan of sexting, it's ridiculous. And here's why. Look at it in terms of social capital. Social capital basically is like, she'll comply to a certain amount of things. The amount of like social capital you need to get the girl to sext you is pretty much the same or even greater than the amount of social capital you need to get the girl out on a date. And last time I checked, you can't fuck her through your phone. But if you get her on a date, you can actually have sex with her. So I much prefer to use that social capital to get her out on a date. So I very rarely, if at all, do anything along the lines of sexting. However, when I do text, I do flirt a lot. Okay, it's flirty, it's not just serious, logical text. So there's a lot of like foreplay in my texts themselves and a lot of like banter and that kind of stuff. Also, I will occasionally just hint at something sexual. Like I'll throw out, I might say like, you keep talking like that, you'll never get in my pants. And I'll see how she responds to it. If she starts sexualizing it, I'll go with it a little bit. Just a little bit. And my plan again is not to be like having like the thing where I'm telling her how to masturbate while she's like texting back and forth with me. I'm not trying to have that conversation. But if I do sexualize it a little bit and she's participating and leading it, that can be really good for getting her committed and getting her to buy in. However, if she's really doing that, what I would prefer to do once it goes a little bit, pick up the phone, get her on the phone, get her out on a date where you can actually have real sex with her. Because I would much rather have a hot physical woman in my bed than a hot picture on my phone. Okay, so that's why I don't personally sext. However, I do believe in flirting a lot. I do believe in sexualizing the conversation a bit and cutting it off. The other issue with sexting, by the way, is if you go too far with sexting, one of two things can happen. One thing, sexting, if you go really far with it and they like it, sometimes they come over and just have sex with you. But the other thing I found happens with a lot of guys is you go really far with the sexting, and then it actually makes it harder to get them out on a date because they feel like you just want them for sex. You've kind of crossed that threshold or crossed that border, okay? So again, I think the priority is get them out on a date rather than get them sexting. So play around with it, have fun with it, that kind of stuff, but don't push it super, super far, and understand when you have the social capital to get them on a date, that should be your priority, okay? If you are going to sext, do what I kind of suggested, which is throw it out a little bit, just kind of tease or hint at it and see if she takes the bait. If she takes the bait, then by all means go with it. But don't be the person trying to force sexting to happen when she's resisting it. Don't be the person that's like, so send me a pic, and then like 3 messages later, so send me a pic. Don't be pushy, don't be needy, don't be desperate for sexting. Final topic I absolutely need to address. When should you move on? When is it time to stop texting a girl? And as you guys may have gathered, I'm pretty persistent overall. Like if a girl's giving me silence, I'll keep pinging value into the void for quite a while, right? I'll keep sending out these value offering texts. I've had girls come around after 6 months, a year, that kind of stuff. So I'm certainly not a big fan of like cutting them off and just like, just throwing in the towel. I'm not a big fan of that. However, there are times when it is time to cut it. Number one, if the girl says, stop fucking texting me, probably stop fucking texting her. Right? If it's gotten to that point, absolutely. Also, if it's gotten to a point where you've sent like literally like 10 or 15 texts without a response, it's probably a pretty good indicator that she's not interested. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe she changed phone numbers. You never know, right? If the girl's boyfriend picks up the phone and calls and says, don't text my fucking girlfriend anymore, that's a pretty good indicator. All those kind of things. The point here is be smart, okay? Be smart. Don't be an idiot. Don't get yourself into some kind of legal stalker situation, number one. Don't get yourself into like a fight with an angry boyfriend. And at a certain point, like the girl's genuinely not interested and it legitimately is harassment. If you get that vibe, if you get to that point, fucking cut it off. The thing I would suggest before that is if the girl's giving you not a lot of response, demote her very quickly to the kind of weak lead or like she's not that into you but it's still a possibility sort of category. And then you're gonna send her those value offering texts, but it's not gonna be every day. It'll be like once a week, once every couple of weeks, once a month, something like that. And that way, if she is on or she's gonna come back around, she will. But if it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. And one other thing I will say is this is another reason why social media is really good is you get the girl on social media, she's kind of there for life. She might come across you at a later time. Good things can happen with that. And it's so much less try hard that you avoid the neediness and creepiness. So if you do happen to exchange social media or if you can intentionally exchange social media at the same time as you get phone numbers, that can help you with that massively as well. All right, but the thing is, don't be an idiot. Be persistent. Don't be the guy that just gives up quickly. But if the girl's very, very clearly indicating she's not interested, understand there's 3.5 billion more girls on the planet, many of whom are also hot and amazing, and there's no shortage of girls you can be putting through your phone. Also, be getting new numbers so you're not so super obsessed with any one girl.